Welcome to my cancer, welcome back to episode 46 of Taking Charge of My Cancer podcast. And I'm so excited to have an amazing guest who I've been kind of following for a little bit. Her name is Fitz Koehler, and let me know if I didn't spell it right. Fitz is a fitness innovator with a master's degree in exercise and sports science, a breast cancer crusher, and the author of multiple books, including My Noisy Cancer Comeback, Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, and the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. She's also one of the American's most exciting keynote speakers and a premier race announcer. After waging her own incredible comeback, Fizz works tirelessly to help other cancer patients and survivors weaponize exercise, nutrition, and mental fortitude to go from sick to strong and beyond. And I'm so excited to have you here today. And thank you so much for doing this with me, Fitz.
Of course, Dirly. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show.
Absolutely. So here, tell me a little bit about your journey.
I'll try to keep it brief because all of these cancer journeys are pretty intricate, right? But in December of 2018, I was going about my business, living my best life. I'm a fitness expert, which I've been teaching fitness since I was 14. And I'm an athlete. I was running races, have great young children, beautiful family. And so December of 2018, I went in for my annual mammogram and I came out with a clean bill of health. The doctor said, there's nothing there. See you next year. And I was ecstatic. And then 7 weeks later at a race weekend, which I was running, I came out of the shower and rubbed my under boob. I had an itch and I scratched it and I found a lump. And it was a sizey lump. And so I immediately called the doctor. And within about a week or so, I had the appointments and the mammogram and the ultrasound and then the punch biopsies. And a surgeon called and said, Fitz, I'm so sorry, but that mass in your breast indeed is breast cancer, and it has spread to several lymph nodes already. So it is running through you like wildfire. We need to treat you urgently and aggressively. And they did. So I had 15 months of chemo, 21 different rounds, a very mean chemo, 33 rounds of radiation and surgery. And I've been cancer-free for a few years now. And I'm so grateful.
That's amazing. So no history in the family? No cancer history at all?
No. And interesting, most people don't know that most breast cancer patients don't have a history in their family. So I was just like the many.
Okay, I understand that. What kind of tumor markers do you have with your cancer? Were you like a PR positive, triple negative?
Yeah, so I was estrogen positive, HER2 positive. Apparently I was just on the line of progesterone. So one doctor considers me progesterone positive, the other one considers me negative. So I was at least double positive, which when they told me that, when I got the call, so I get the call from the surgeon that says, yeah, you got breast cancer. It's already spread. We got to giddy up. And then I got another call that said, hey, you're positive for HER2 positive and you're progesterone positive and estrogen positive. And I actually was at a bagel place with my interns. So every semester, I host several interns from the University of Florida's College of Health and Human Performance. And I certainly didn't want to worry them. So I get this phone call, which I have to take during our meeting. And it's the PA telling me about their HER2 and the estrogen positive. And I didn't really know what those things were. But I went, F, I threw out the big F bomb. And I thought, gosh, I'm definitely dying because I'm positive for everything. And she said, no. In this case, the positives are good things because we know what feeds your cancer and we know how to kill it. So we're happy that you're positive. And so I thought, okay, this is weird, about to get weirder. And it sure did.
Okay. Did you ever have any physical therapy at all? Like for the beginning of your diagnosis through any of your chemotherapy or radiation?
So I have to tell you that I am a long-term raging fan of physical therapy, especially my history in sports is vast. For about 10 years, I competed as a kickboxer, a competitive kickboxer. I was in the ring fighting. I have a leg length difference. It's not significant. It's not big, but it's significant enough to cause issues. So I have gone to physical therapy for a very long time. I was going pretty much weekly before my diagnosis, and I continued on because my hips and my knees just needed it. And then my physical therapist, who I adore, he is my lifeline. I saw him almost all the way through treatment, and I just saw him yesterday. I keep going because it's so valuable, but I took a few month break only because I was so sick, and which is tragic to think I was too sick to go to physical therapy. But yeah, there's no way I could have rebounded and recovered as incredibly well as I had without my physical therapist. So
that's great.
Yeah, it's important. I wish every cancer patient would go do that because it's necessary.
Absolutely. And sometimes again, I've been a PT for many years, but doing oncology for 15 years. And it is amazing how the cancer itself treatment has changed so much, right? And I'm sure that if we see a patient like with your kind of diagnosis right now, we more likely will be treating differently than how we treated you back in 2013. Just because things just improve so much as we go. And I think because everybody is more conscious about quality life, right? Do we really need to give you this medication? Do we really need to give you this radiation? Do we have to take that many lymph nodes out and give you lymphedema if we don't need to? So we try to really be better and better. What I mean, we meaning multidisciplinary team, medical oncologists, surgeons, radiation oncologists, rehab, to avoid for that to happen. So we can really do the minimum things we can do that give you a great, survivorship, but with a much better quality of life versus just really how it used to be before. Like, cancer patient was like, don't do anything, just take it easy, stay in bed, right? Don't move. So that's a completely the opposite now. So one thing that really I love, like I mentioned before, the first time I hear you was to one of Dr. Teplinsky, a medical oncologist podcast, interlude, and I enjoyed that podcast so much. I was like, so much like great energy, and I think that you have such a great power to be able to motivate other patients like you, like, okay, so I know you're having a downtime, but you can do this, and then just move because you're gonna see results later. So
yeah, thank you. I mean, it was a learning experience for me. And unless you work so intimately with cancer patients like you do, it's pretty close to impossible for anybody to even understand. Even if your spouse had cancer, it's still impossible to understand what actually goes on. And it's different for all of us. Cancer patient experience are like the snowflakes, but woof, it's very intense. And so when I had some real epiphanies during my treatment, one of those light bulb moments. And, I made some really powerful decisions with my attitude, mental decisions that went a long way. I continued on with my career. I continued with perspective. I think perspective was the most important decision I made because I never had a why me moment. And so many cancer patients, they're like, why me? And at the University of Florida, we have a pediatric oncology unit that is filled with babies with cancer, and those babies did nothing. So why not me? I instantly thought, okay, now I'm one of the millions of people who have cancer. I never did that. Was I terrified? Absolutely. Did I grieve? Yes. Did I have inordinate stress? You betcha. It was the most stress I've ever felt in my life, times 1,000. But perspective was number one. Pursuing my passions were number two. But my light bulb moment, which is great because my career as fitness, came on about my 6th round of mean chemo. And so I break my chemotherapy up into 2 different parts. I had 6 rounds of this vicious combination. Your folks might recognize Taxotere, carboplatin, Perjeta, and Herceptin, and they wreaked havoc on me. And I lived with a violent stomach bug every single day for 5 months or whatever. It was god awful. And then the next 10 months, which I was told, oh, it'll be a lot better. It was, but I was still crazy sick and I lost lots of weight. Anyways. So I go into round number 6 of the mean chemo. And at this point, every iota of my body has been obliterated in some regard. It's not just my hair loss. My entire digestive system had been through the cheese grater. My fingernails were ripping off. I had rashes and welts, and there was nothing going right with me. Everything was wrong. And now I had to go in for number 6. And with cancer, you know, each first treatment is terrifying because of the unknown. But depending on what you're going through, for me, round number 6 of chemo was way scarier than number 1 because I knew what was coming. It's like standing in front of a truck again, waiting to be hit again. So I went into my hematology oncologist office. It's Dr. Gordon, who I think is a wizard. I love this man. But I was nervous and I was stressed. He could see the tears in my eyes, and I was a catastrophe. And he looked at me and he says, Fitz, I am so proud of you. You have done so great. And I said, what? What do you mean I've done so great? I'm a mess. Look at me. I'm broken. And he said, golly, no, you've done so great. I'm so proud of you. And I said, Dr. Gordon, why are you saying this to me? There's nothing right about me. He said, Fitz, I'm not suggesting you haven't suffered. You have suffered greatly. It's true. He said, however, if you were not so healthy and fit coming into this and committed to doing whatever you could, whenever you could, he said, you would have spent a lot more than just one night in the hospital. And I was hospitalized for one night and I didn't like it. He said, you likely would have been hospitalized for a month with your level of sickness. He said, which you likely would have had a feeding tube, you know, which would have made you susceptible to infections. There was all these things that could have gone wrong with you. But because of your commitment to health and fitness, not only were you not hospitalized for a month, you have been traveling around the country, working, having more adventure than most healthy people do in an entire year. So yes, you've suffered. However, you've really shined because of your health and fitness. And so at that point, the light bulb went off and I thought, oh, because it wasn't that I wasn't in a terrible place. I was, but it could have been so much worse had I not been committed to the exercise. And exercise for me at that point was simple stuff like leg lifts in bed, you know, stretching in the shower. I wasn't able to run and play and do the things that I used to do, but I did do the things that I could do. And of course, with nutrition, you know, my taste buds were just trash. I couldn't taste anything. So when I could eat something healthy, I did eat something healthy. And about that, well, a few months later, I finished with surgery and I was released to go back to the gym to start doing like regular weightlifting. And there's a whole bunch of steps between surgery and getting back in the gym for weightlifting. But I had gone through those paces and I sat down on a machine and I was so excited because I am a gym rat. I love being in there. And so I took my little skeleton body to the gym, and it was probably about the same time where my mother was freaked out every time she looked at me and she said, you look like you're in the Holocaust. You got to eat. And I said, I know, and I'm trying, but I can't. I mean, this is, I don't have any explanation. I don't want to be this skinny, right? So I took my little bald, skinny body to the gym enthusiastically, and I sat down on a machine and I put the pin in to lift the weight I used to lift. And I pushed and nothing happened. I lowered the weight, I lowered the pin, I pushed again and nothing happened. And what I found that day is I had lost 80% of my strength. I had lost so much. And that was really a devastating statistic. I'm a science girl like you. I like data, I like numbers, I like proof. And that was evidence that I had really kind of gone downhill. And there was 2 thoughts. Number one was I thought, if I were the regular person, this is where I would normally burst into tears and run out of the gym, get in my car, go home and give up. But lucky me, I'm a fitness expert. This is what I do. And so sitting there as a weakling, I just designed in my mind the perfect plan to get me back to strength, to get me back to athletic, to put my weight back on. I never had a doubt that I was going to return to not only normal, but vibrant and athletic. Lucky me, I'm a fitness pro. But at that very same time, I thought, oh, I agonize for my peers, you know, those millions and millions of cancer patients globally who have no idea how to return to normalcy or greatness after cancer or its care have wreaked havoc on them. And so, yeah, I was committed that I was going to write the books, that I was going to help people. If you go on Amazon, you're not going to, other than mine, you're not going to find another book that specifically targets exercise and cancer. There are exercise oncologists throughout the country and the world, but there was no handbook for it, no guidebook. So I created it, and I wouldn't go back and have cancer in order to be here helping other people. But the reality is I can't undo the fact that I had cancer. And this is my way of making lemonade, is to take my ghastly experience and all of my brilliance, right, in fitness, and help other people.
That's so amazing. And I'm so glad that you're telling us your story, because one thing that we are totally determined to do with our program here is, because like I mentioned before, we try to see a lot of our patients pre-op, so it's pretty new.
Yeah.
And we run a body composition test where we're looking into, how much muscle you have, how much fat you have. And that give us a pretty good idea of like, no, you're low in your skeletal muscle mass. We need to start to really build a program now, and has to be now, even before you start your first chemo, even before you have surgery. And let's get us continue building you up through chemo, instead of like, okay, let's just back off. Right. And then just really continue working into that. And again, it's gonna be times mainly when you go through chemo where you guys are not gonna be able to do heavy resistance, but that doesn't mean that you have to go down to only 2 pounds, right? For bicep curls. So has been a really great way to really have patients. Like I have CrossFitters going through chemo, keeping up with the whole thing as much as they can, and try to coach them to like, it's okay to back off today, but tomorrow we gotta get you moving back there. Not necessarily 6 months after chemo is done, but just right away. And the amount of diminish of the secondary effects that chemo can bring is amazing, just with exercise. So these patients have barely nausea, barely a lot of different issues that can be happen. So I really think that when you really target that exercise right away and increasing oxygen and doing all these different things that you do in your metabolism, right? Decrease inflammation, that will really help with all these secondary effects. So
it's interesting. I think everybody has that aunt. We're going to call her Aunt Peg, who says, oh my gosh, you have cancer. You need to stay in bed. You need to isolate and stay in bed and don't move the whole time. And we know that Aunt Peg loves you, but first of all, the isolation thing is a terrible idea, because you want to be depressed, you want to give up, isolate. That's the quickest recipe for that. Yep. But what Aunt Peg doesn't realize is by lying in bed, you're going to lose muscle mass, you're going to lose flexibility, you're going to lose stamina, you're going to lose balance. And what could be worse than cancer and a broken hip, because you have wasted away. And so Aunt Peg, she loves you, but she's wrong. Never listen to Aunt Peg. And then for the cancer patient who is thinking, oh, I'm too sick to do anything, well, know that you don't have to be what you were. And when I was going through cancer, trust me, I wasn't what I was. I was not anywhere close to what I used to be able to do. However, I did the things I could when I could. So perhaps you just had surgery. Maybe your exercise is getting up and walking around the hospital floor. Okay, that counts. Every time you stand up, every time you sit down, the act of lifting your body is exercise. Anytime you put your joints through their full range of motion, you are decreasing your chances of injury from sprains, strains, or tears. So it all adds up. And, yes, be compassionate with yourself. Know that you may need more rest. Not every cancer patient does. And you see it. There are some cancer patients who are feeling pretty good and functioning pretty well. And for those cases, I have friends who ran Boston Marathon while having chemo, soon after having surgery. So some cancer patients really do thrive and get to live the great majority of their normal life through treatment. But, you have to be compassionate, yet still be determined. And you think, screw you, cancer, I am going to lift my legs up and down, up and down, up and down. And then I'll take a break, and then I'm going to do it again. But, and listen to your physical therapist, for crying out loud. Your PT is an elite solution. If you're insured and you can have that, you should.
Yep, I totally agree to that. What type of resources do you use to help you make decisions about your treatments?
Oh, the treatments that I received?
Yep.
What's so great is my doctors, they came at me with data. So Dr. Gordon would say, I'm going to give you these treatments, and here's the research that shows you why these are the best treatments. So He knew that I had the ability to reject his suggestions, as did my radiologist or radiation oncologist and my surgeon. So they would show me, they would send me a link, or Dr. Gordon would actually print out a packet of papers and say, here's the drugs, or this is why this plan is relevant. And sometimes he would say, now, if we do this, we can increase survival chances by, 0.8% or 1.5%. And I always thought, okay, I'll do that. Yeah, but that was it. He was giving me hard data. All of my doctors were very, what's the word? I mean, they were just good that way. And I don't know if as many patients would receive that information as well, if they didn't understand how to read a study and so forth. But I felt like I was completely in the loop, and I was making coherent decisions based on evidence.
Okay, got you. What will be the most painful lesson that you learned through your journey?
My most painful lesson. It's a hard one, but a good one, right? So I learned a lot more empathy for people struggling. I'm the glass is always full. I was literally conceived in Disney World, which is a creepy tidbit my mother shared with me. She's like, that's why you're always so happy. So I'm a bright side girl, but I got a really good look at depression and fear and those type of things that I've really never experienced much of before. And what did I learn? I learned a couple things. I learned that the girl inside my head, she's phenomenal. There was a lot of times where I was terrified. I'm a claustrophobic person. So my MRI, for most people, when they get an MRI, they go in because their knee or their hip hurts, and they lie on their back and they get shoved in the machine. And even that can be stressful. And it has been for me in the past. But for my breast MRI, they put me down on my face with my arms above my head like Superman. And then they locked me down by pinning in my boobs. And boy, did I freak out. That first time, there was crying and flailing and begging, and I had to get out of the machine. And then I eventually got back into the machine because I had no choice. I had to have this MRI before they were willing to start treatment. And I learned that the girl in my head is on my side. And so some people have that voice in their head that says, you're going to die and you're no good, or you're overweight or whatever. The voice in their head picks on them. The voice in my head, she was saying, you know what? You've got this. You've done so many hard things. You've proven yourself. You've been through tough times. You've raised great kids. You've built a global business. You used to be a competitive kickboxer. You can do hard things. You've got this. And so I learned that I'm pretty darn resilient. I don't want to have that that experience in my books, but I'm better for it. There's very few things in life that are scary to me now. Only the harm of my children. Anything that would happen to Ginger or Parker are terrifying to me. But other than that, I don't fear anything in business. I don't fear any sort of adventure. I don't fear humans. I've learned to listen to me and to believe in myself and keep an eye on the prize. And for me, there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And I know not every cancer patient is blessed with that assurance, but I believed I was going to survive. So I continued to endure the nonsense until I got there.
Got you. What are your thoughts? So we talk a lot about fitness and exercise. How about nutrition? What kind of tips can you give to our audience on nutrition?
Yeah, so folks know 100% that you can weaponize exercise and nutrition to increase your chances of remission and decrease your chances of recurrence. And there are infinite number of studies that prove that. So I don't think those things are cures on their own. I do believe very much in our Western medicine or chemo, radiation, surgery, whatever you and your doctors decide, but know that you can increase your odds of survival if you take better care of yourself, if you are stronger, and that food you put in your body. I correlate it to the masses. When people get a cold, they instantly say, oh, I'm getting the sniffles. I need to go get some vitamin C, right? I need to buy over-the-counter vitamin C or eat some oranges. Well, that's because vitamin C actually is a powerful tool to help you fight off infection. Okay, well, now let's amplify that problem and make it cancer. And not only will this help your body be a more resilient opponent to cancer, but most cancer patients are poked on a regular basis. I mean, I think they put like 200 needles in me. Every single time someone puts a needle in you or a scalpel, whatever it may be, you are at risk for infection. Mm-hmm. And so quality nutrition makes you more resistant to infection. And so that nutrition is so powerful. Can it help with the cancer killing? I believe it can. And if you look at the research, you might be convinced the same way. But at minimum, it's certainly going to make you less likely, less prone to infection before and after cancer. So, eating is hard for a million reasons during cancer, and I experienced that myself. But if you have the ability to choose strawberries over Doritos, do it.
I like that. Yes, absolutely. Is any thing that you have that will be of value to our audience, and will you just share that with us?
Yeah, well, obviously, I would love to tell people about my book series. I'm very proud of them, and I call it the Cancer Comeback series. And who doesn't want to be a part of that? So the most important book in the series that I want cancer patients and survivors to be aware of is Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, Sick to Strong. And that book is a complete guidebook for cancer patients from the day of diagnosis through treatment. We target chemo, radiation, surgeries, transplants, and everything that may happen to you between point A and point B, how to manage your exercise, nutrition, and then your complementary care, which includes physical therapy, massage therapy, acupuncture, sexual health counseling, mental health counseling. There are so many things that you can do to assist yourself through this very, very difficult experience. If you ever need a book for something, a guidebook, this is the time. And so Your Healthy Cancer Comeback is just filled with helpful information. My favorite chapters are foods that help versus foods that hurt, which is what we just spoke about. Mm-hmm. And it's all written in layman's terms. So even a 14-year-old could understand this book. And then the everything exercise chapter, much of it would be good for the masses. People who don't even have cancer really just don't understand how it all works and how you should pursue exercise. But then there are hundreds of photos to help you know how to exercise each part of your body, not only if you can stand up, but tons of exercises on how and photos on how to exercise in a chair if you can't stand, dozens of exercises on how to exercise in bed. And I know we spend a lot of time in bed when cancer is beating us up. So you can be productive in bed. And then my favorite were the exercise, the stretches in the shower. Because for me, because I was so sick, I was always hopping in the shower. And I did so much stretching in there. I would put on Jerry Seinfeld interviews so he can make me laugh. And I would stretch. But yeah, that book is just brimming with good ideas to help you through it. And of course, lessons in mental fortitude. That's book number one. The companion to that is the Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal, which is a place for you to document all of your details from diagnosis through treatment, and then a cathartic place to release your feelings, your faith, your fear, notes about your family, and then the funny stuff. And so I had a real kind of funny, sarcastic perspective while going through my treatment. So, have you nicknamed your port? Have you nicknamed your tumor? What celebrity do you look like bald? And I got so many. I never wore a wig. So people were always saying, you look like Sinead O'Connor or Grace Jones. And I am a white woman with blue eyes. And I thought, really? Okay. But the most common I received was that I looked like crazy Britney Spears, which was awesome. I thought I looked like Voldemort many days. But anyway, so there's a lot of fun within this journal. It's full color because I want people to be cheered up when they open it. And the last section of the book is a place for you to document your journey from sick to strong. So all the details about your exercise, nutrition, hydration, sleep, your strawberry moments, your best moments of each day. So I'm really proud of the journal. And then there's a memoir. It's called My Noisy Cancer Comeback, Running at the Mouth While Running for My Life. And that's my story from diagnosis to my final day of treatment. And I had a weird situation, an interesting situation, because I was still traveling the country, announcing races and doing keynote presentations. And the amount of wild and wacky things that happen between me and not only cancer, but me and cancer and society, there was a lot of fun. And from what I hear from people who do and don't have cancer that are enjoying the book, is they say, it really just helped give them perspective. It was good lesson in mental fortitude, and they just enjoyed the stories. So that's the Cancer Comeback series. They are available wherever books are sold, Amazon and Barnes and Noble. My Noisy Cancer Comeback is on Audible as well. However, I love it when people shop at my website, fitzness.com. It's F-I-T-Z as in zebra, N-E-S-S. My name is Fitz Koehler. And if you purchase the book at fitzness.com, we have the Cancer Comeback gift set for him and for her. They're on big discount right now. And I sign all of the books that are purchased at fitzness.com. So I'm really, I just am excited to help people and make their lives, better, because cancer's hard, right?
Yep, that's great. Actually, I was about to ask you where they can find them. And I know that how can people find you? You send me some of the links and I'll put that on the podcast notes as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And then just people can get to you. Is any podcast that you recommend to the audience?
Oh, the Fitzness Show. Listen to my podcast. And you know what? I have a few episodes that are dedicated to cancer, whether it's my experience or interviewing other oncologists or other patients. And it's certainly an interesting topic, but my podcast is overwhelmingly about health and fitness and adventure and, appropriate for the masses, but I keep it fun. I keep it happy. And then I also keep it pointed because someone's got to tell you the truth. And I'm just that girl.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Perfect. Is any other activities that you would recommend patients when they go through treatments?
I mean, you got to arm yourself with as many weapons as you can. And I do believe physical therapy, number one, my therapist was a godsend for me. Massage therapy, acupuncture really helped me with neuropathy. That became pretty tricky, and I was surprised by the results I had from neuropathy. I'm a Western medicine kind of girl, so acupuncture I've been skeptical of, but I've seen wonderful results. And then I do believe folks should really take care of their mental health. If you are struggling, if you are depressed, if you are having more dark days than good ones, you should seek help, because this is tough. This is really hard. But science is good and our doctors are great. And I went to the ASCO conference this year, the American Society of Clinical Oncology. It's the biggest conference in the world for oncology. And I left feeling so encouraged because there were so many brilliant minds and big companies, and they are really working together to try to find solutions, to find cures, whether they're more effective cures or more humane cures, maybe vaccinations. Though there's a whole world of people out there that are trying really hard for us and our kids, and it's just there's good news on the horizon. So have hope. That's
amazing. Fitz, this has been so much fun. We can continue talking here for hours. But I gotta be respectful of your time. I really, really appreciate you doing this with me. That was really a pleasure having you today.
You are a doll, Durley. Anytime. Thank you for inviting me on your show.
Absolutely. You have a great afternoon.